In this video, we're going to look at the top 5 most common questions that are asked in Dollar General interviews, and I'm going to help you plan fantastic answers that will get Dollar General interested in hiring you. So let's start with a question that is asked in every single Dollar General interview, which is simply, what times are you happy to work at Dollar General? And if you don't answer this question very well, you're going to be very unlikely to get the job. So I'm going to show you a great method to show off what they are looking for on this question. So the first thing you're going to do is get 3 ideas in there. You're going to show off as much flexibility as you can, and you're going to show that you have a can-do attitude. And the way that you do this is by saying yes to as many of the follow-up questions that they ask about, can you do this time or can you do that time? And you want to be offering a wide range of different times that you can work, and explicitly saying to them that you're very flexible and you're able to work around the business's needs. The next thing you've got to do is you've got to show that you're committed to the job, and they can screen people out immediately with a bad answer to this question. So the way that people answer this question badly is they immediately list all of the times that they can't work, and that sets the interview up very negatively and gives them reasons not to hire you. What you're trying to do is give them reasons to hire you, so you don't mention any times that you can't do, and you emphasize and make a point of mentioning all the times that you can do. And the other trick is to mention specific times that Dollar General really want. They want people who can work in the evening. So if you're happy to volunteer to work in the evenings, that's a slightly more difficult time to staff. So definitely make a point of mentioning that. If you're happy to work on weekends, doesn't have to be every weekend, though volunteer to work weekends in general, and that will get their interest as well because the stores are open on the weekend and they need people in there. If you are happy to work school holidays, that is definitely something that you should be mentioning. If you're not happy to work school holidays, that's fine. They shouldn't be asking about it, and you should not be bringing that up. So don't volunteer anything that doesn't help you. If you're happy to work opening times, so you're going to get up early in the morning, be in there ready for the store opening, that is a good time to mention. And if you're also happy to work on short notice, definitely mention the word short notice, because that's another way to show your flexibility. So to be successful in this question, get the 3 ideas about being flexible, being can do, and having good commitment to the job. Mention as many of those times as possible and don't bring up anything that you can't do, and you're going to be successful on this question and score highly. The second question that comes up a lot is, how would you manage a rude, angry, or irate customer? And they ask lots of questions around negative interactions, negative experiences, unpleasant customers, customers refusing to accept returns policies. All those sort of questions come up a lot in customer service interviews, and there is always a good procedure to answer these. So you got to get 3 key ideas in. The first thing is you've got to point out that you're going to be calm and that you're going to be professional. You are a representative of the Dollar General brand. And so if you are not being professional, you're going to bring negative press to the company, and they don't want that. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to state that you're going to make use of de-escalation techniques. Make sure you use the word de-escalation. De-escalation means calming everything down, getting the situation under control. Often when customers are very angry, they just want someone to be listening to them and taking them seriously. And it's amazing how much of a calming effect it can have, showing that you are actively listening to what the customer has to say and you're trying to sort it out. They are angry and upset often just to get your attention. And when they've got that attention, it does really calm things down a lot. The last thing you have to reassure them of is that you will always follow Dollar General policy. For example, you will not accept returns that the returns policy doesn't allow. Or if it says that you have to have something approved by a manager, you will not approve it yourself. You will get manager approval. So always make sure you make a point of saying in the interview that you will follow the company's policies. So to recap, show that you're going to be calm and professional. Also reassure them that you're not going to raise your voice and you're not going to shout. Say the word de-escalation, and make sure they understand that you're going to follow the policies. And if you get those 3 ideas in and reassure them that you're not going to do the wrong thing, you will score highly on this question. The next question that you absolutely have to prepare for is, what can you tell me about Dollar General? There is no point going for an interview without really having done a lot of research. And so I'm going to give you an overview of some things that you definitely need to know. So you have to know the obvious things about the company, that Dollar General is a retailer. They are in the business of selling food and everyday grocery items predominantly. They are all about low prices. They serve generally lower income communities, so the pricing is very important. Their customers want low prices, and that is a really big part of their business. they also tend to operate in rural and underserved areas. So places which are rural and don't have enough population to sustain a full-size supermarket often have a Dollar General. And these things called food deserts, which are areas where they don't have a good service from the regular supermarkets, Dollar General steps in and fills that space. There's a lot of controversy about it, but you don't want to mention that in your interview. They focus on serving rural and underserved communities and areas that just don't have sufficient big supermarkets at low prices. That's where they come in. You should know their slogan, which currently is serving others. You should know their main brands, which is Clover Valley, Smart and Simple. And you should also know Dolgen Corp, which is the company that is owned by Dollar General that manufactures a lot of their own brand products. They're also quite proud of their literacy foundation. They have donated and raised enormous amounts of money for literacy. That is a good thing to bring up. The last thing you want to mention is a bit about the history, which goes one level further than what most people do. So originally it comes from J.L. Turner and Son, and that was founded in 1939. And the Dollar General idea comes from the Dollar Days promotion. So they found that running Dollar Day promotions where everything was $1 was really profitable. And they had the idea, well, why not make everything in the store $1? And that's where the name Dollar General comes from. Though, of course, now Dollar General is not stuck to the $1 price point. Make sure you don't say that Dollar General sells everything at $1 because that's not true, and that's going to show you don't know very much about the company. And the last thing you need to do to prepare is my top tip, and it takes a while to do, but it's worth it, is to read Dollar General's Form 10K. So that's like the annual report of the company. And if you read that, you're going to get absolutely amazing information. And it's the most current picture of the company. You get all the financials, you get what they're focusing on, where they're expanding, what their future plans are. You'll get absolutely all of that in great detail. So take time to read that and mention that you've read it, and that'll be really impressive in your interview. So let's move on to question 4, which is why did you leave your last job? And you can really screw up an interview if you say any of the bad things on this. So I'm going to show you what to avoid and what some good things to say are. So the first thing is, do not mention anything on the Dollar General hate list. If you mention anything on this list, your chance of getting the job just plummeted, absolutely crashed. So never say anything negative ever about your former employer. Just don't do it. Anything negative that you say about your former employer will get you marked down and will be held against you. If you criticize managers, maybe you had the worst manager in the world that made you leave your last job, but they will assume that the manager is probably right and you are probably wrong, because most of the time people in interviews that say nasty things and negative things about former managers are probably going to be the problem. Likewise, if you had a disagreement with a co-worker, maybe the co-worker was the worst co-worker in the world, they were the awful person to work with, but they will just assume that you are the problem. Anyone who mentions negative things about other employees at other companies, criticizes the company, criticizes management, is someone that companies just learn to avoid, because 9 times out of 10, that is going to cause them problems. So absolutely never say anything negative about former employers, former managers, anyone you worked with. That is an absolute no-no. Good things that they would like to hear is if you're moving for a promotion, if this is one level above, that is a perfectly reasonable job to be reasonable reason to be leaving your last job. Family partner relocation is a good reason. So it's not about you wanting to leave your former employer. It's just you had to because you moved city or your partner got a new job and you were going along with them. Restructure. So if you were laid off because the whole place closed, it was nothing to do with your performance, just everybody was got rid of. That is a good thing to mention. And definitely mention that you would be hired back if you applied for your old job again, or if the company needed someone, that they would jump at the chance to get you back. If that's true, that is really, 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 really reassuring to hear. If you would be hired back, make a big point of mentioning that. So let's look at number 5, which is strengths and weaknesses, and then we'll look at some questions that you should be asking them at the end of the interview. So for a strength, it has to be a significant strength. It has to be something that is actually important and that you actually have. Then you have to supply some evidence. So that could be a reference from a former manager. That's really powerful. Or some sort of qualification or something that proves that I actually have this strength. It's not just my opinion. This strength is real. But most importantly, it has to be relevant to Dollar General. So if it's not something that's relevant, they don't care. So things like reliability and good customer service skills and previous experience working in retail are all very great strengths. And once you've picked your strength, and if you're struggling to think of one, reliability, customer service, previous work experience in retail are some good strengths to go with. So the way you answer this is to say a substantial strength I can bring to Dollar General is, you make sure that you're saying it's a substantial strength, say what your strength is. This is evidenced by, get a reference from someone, bring a qualification, find some way to prove that that strength is real, and then do some work for them. Say at Dollar General, this strength will, and explain why your strength is going to make their business better. And if you do that, that really does help you score much more highly on this question. So let's flip to look at the biggest weakness. And this question can lose you the whole interview if you say a bad answer, or you can survive this question and do fine. So you have to start with a genuine weakness. They have got no time for fake weaknesses. So saying things like, I'm a total perfectionist, is not going to cut it. The worst thing that can happen is you pick a weakness that isn't really a weakness, and then the manager says, okay, can you tell me a real weakness? Or they say, that's not really a weakness. Can you think of another one? And you're put on the spot. The next thing you have to do is you have to be fixing it. So what are you doing to fix that weakness and get rid of it? You want to spend more time talking about what you're doing about the weakness than why it's going to be such a massive problem and make you terrible at your job. The last thing that is super important is that Dollar General shouldn't really care about your weakness. That having this weakness is going to make virtually no difference to the business. So if you were to say something like, I get lots of complaints about body odor, that's going to be a no-no. They don't want to employ people who have bad body odor. So just don't go there, for example. So if you say a weakness that's going to really harm their business, that's going to be a disaster. So some ideas of how to structure your answer is to say a weakness that I'm aware of is, and then I am working to overcome this by. So say what a weakness is, and I'll give you some inspiration, and then say what you are doing to overcome this weakness. So some ideas could be spelling. If you're not in management, you're not going to be writing anything anyway, or anything of any significance, so spelling's not going to be a problem. If you're applying in an area where virtually everybody speaks English and virtually everybody applying for jobs only speaks English, saying that you only speak English is not going to be a problem at all. If you are terrified of public speaking, well, you're not going to be on the stage. You're not going to be speaking to hundreds of people. It's probably never going to happen. So that being a weakness is not going to be a big issue. And delegation is a good one to mention if you're not in management, because you can easily talk about how you're going to develop delegation as a skill when you will need it in the future, but you're not going to need it now, so it's fine. So pick one of those weaknesses or think up another weakness. Make sure it's genuine. Say what you're doing to fix it. That could be taking an online course, that could be doing some mentoring, or that could be picking it up while you're doing the job. And make sure absolutely it's something they don't care about. So let's finish by looking as a bonus on some great questions to ask them. So definitely ask them what happens next in the hiring process. Show that you're eager to get the job. Make sure also that you ask what you should do now to prepare for starting a job there. You want to show that you're going to make some commitments to the company before you start. So when they say, I would recommend that you do these things, you there and then agree to do those. And that sets the interview up at the end as a very positive interview. Definitely make a point of asking what the manager's favorite part of working at Dollar General is and share in their enthusiasm and positivity. A clever question to finish with is to ask them to describe the perfect Dollar General employee. So, what does perfection look like in an employee? And then remind them of your previous answers and help explain how you meet exactly what they are looking for. And lastly, make sure you invent one question up on the day. So, listen to what they're saying throughout the interview, take a mental note of something that pops into your head, and ask that at the end. One question should be spontaneous to show that you're listening to what they are saying in the interview. So I wish you the best of luck in your Dollar General interview. And finally, thank you very much for watching.